Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Friday, January 1st, 2021. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or listening through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered in my over 46 years of doing therapy. And these tools are available absolutely free at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the red and white bullseye or the link in the upper left-hand corner of most pages that says Start Here, we'll take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Ryce's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of that book is a narrative description of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I can use to manage my emotional state. It's a tool that I can use anytime I have a negative emotion arise in my awareness to understand how my internal system is producing that negative emotional state and become aware that that's distorting my perception. As I apply this tool, it allows me to see the error in my thought or the trauma in my past that's responsible for generating that negative emotion and therefore responsible for distorting my perception. And when I do that, I restore myself to a different level of clarity of perception. The more I do that over time, the better my life gets. I've been doing that over time for the past 17 years, and I can say that without fail, my life has gotten better and better over that period of time the more I've actively used these tools in my life. I say tools plural because if you scroll down on that page, you can get a whole series of other worksheets. But before you scroll down, we encourage you to take a look at what's there near the top. You've got the ability to download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Ryce's book. You have the ability to download the actual worksheet process itself. A simple click, download the PDF file, print it off, and use it as often as you'd like. You have the ability to download and listen to a whole host of audio files of shows just like this one where people have called in and been stepped through the application of that tool. You also have the ability to go to your app store and type in the 3 words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness. Having done that, before you're finished typing the word forgiveness, you'll see the glowing heart icon, and you can tap on that and it'll give you access to a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet, an abbreviated version of that process, and a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. And we encourage people to do that. And then if you see it's making a benefit in your life, you want to give us a testimonial, or you have a question about how to use it more effectively or efficiently, that's what we're here for 5 days a week in our current format, 2 hours a day. You can give us a call at 563-999-3581. If you call that number and press 1, it'll put a little question mark by your phone number, and I can announce you by your area code, and we can have a conversation. Today being the first day of the new calendar year, we've made the commitment to do the Course in Miracles, or step through the lessons and discuss it this year. And for those who don't know, A Course in Miracles comprises 365 lessons. And while the book has a Christian tone, much of the writing and wisdom is similar to Eastern wisdom traditions. The key tenet throughout the book, I'm now reading bits and pieces from the foreword. The key tenet throughout the book is forgiveness. And the book tells us that forgiveness is the answer to all of life's problems. It goes on to say that forgiveness recognizes what you thought your brother or sister did to you has not occurred. So forgiveness in this sense does not pardon sins, for that would make them real. Forgiveness in this sense sees there is no sin to be forgiven. There is only a faulty perception to be dismantled. What is sin except a false idea about your brother or sister? Forgiveness as a process merely sees the false as the false and therefore lets it go. The world that we see with our eyes and ears, that our brains create pictures of, is false perception. It is born out of error, and it has not left its source. And that world will remain no longer than the thought which gave birth to it is cherished. So as long as I hold on to my belief that I'm right, and I think that I need to be right, and I need to fight and argue for what I think is right, my perception will remain. But if it's a perception that leaves me with an anger, a fear, a sadness, a hurt, a guilt, a shame, any negative emotional state, I can be assured that it is the result of false perception, that it is the result of past traumas, that it is a result of focusing on the wrong few bits of information. So, in a very real sense, this work is about changing our perception, and therefore the lessons that are offered are about helping us develop the ability to perceive differently, and some would say more accurately. So what we're going to do in this next year as we go through these lessons is read a lesson on an average, one a day. On Fridays and Mondays we will read 2 so that we don't have to read 3 on either a Friday or a Monday. And so today we'll read the first 2 lessons, and it's important to understand that one of the few things that's talked about is, some people say, the only rule given for A Course in Miracles is that you just do 1 lesson per day. So as we read 2 lessons today, we'll recommend that you do the first lesson today and you practice the second lesson tomorrow. Actually, we should probably on Friday read 3 lessons. So we'll read Friday's lesson, Saturdays, and Sundays. And then you'll practice 1 today, you'll practice 1 Saturday, you'll practice 1 Sunday if you so desire. So, if we step into the first lesson, the first lesson for today reads as follows. Nothing I see means anything. Nothing I see in this room, nothing I see when I'm out on the street, nothing I see from this window, nothing I see in this place, wherever I am at any time that I'm doing this exercise, none of it means anything. And the instructions then are, look slowly around you and practice applying this idea very specifically to whatever you see. A table, a chair, a hand. This hand does not mean anything. This foot, this pen does not mean anything. Then look further away from your immediate area and apply the idea to a wider range. This door, this body, this lamp, this sign does not mean anything. This shadow does not mean anything. Simply notice that these statements are not arranged in any order, and they make no allowance for differences in the kinds of things to which they're applied. That is the purpose of this exercise. We are stretching our ability to perceive from what we've been trained into to what the Course would usher us into as an entirely different way to experience what hits our senses, what we call the world. There's a book titled A Course in Miracles Experiment, a starter kit for rewiring your mind and therefore the world. This is by Pam Grout. And her first chapter, our chapters go along with the lessons. Her first chapter tells us, new stuff has come to light. A Course in Miracles proposes a revolutionary overhaul of everything we now believe. Like quantum physics that overthrew Newton's reality of colliding pool balls, the Course presents an outright challenge to the fundamental nature of reality. Everything we think we know, everything we believe to be fact is backwards, wrong side up. So when you boil it down, that's the first 50 lessons of A Course in Miracles. What we think is true, even what we call factual knowledge, is the exact opposite of how the world really is. Our culture feeds us this thought line about the world being scary. It teaches us to protect ourselves. It claims possibilities are finite. The Course in Miracles is designed to prove that none of that is true. It's designed to undo and retrain our mind. This rewires and changes everything in our lives. And then she lists the first lesson. Nothing I see means anything. Then she says, just for one measly minute, look around the room, look out the window, whatever happens to be in your line of sight, and say, this lamp doesn't mean anything. This TV doesn't mean anything. This computer doesn't mean anything. And that's it. As the Course says, you don't have to believe it. You don't even have to like it. Just follow the instructions. This is a practice. We're being called to practice, not be differently in the moment, but to practice being different, seeing differently. And I would add, as we do this, it will stir up all kinds of things. Most of us will have resistance to doing these exercises. Most of us will have resistance to believing the exercises, and that's okay. The only essential thing is that we do the process. It goes on to say in the lesson, as you practice the idea for the day, use it totally indiscriminately. Don't try to guide it. Do not attempt to apply it to everything you see, for these exercises should not become ritualistic. Only be sure that nothing you see is specifically excluded. One thing is like another as far as the application of this idea is concerned. And each of the first 3 lessons should not be done more than twice a day, preferably morning and evening, nor should they be attempted for more than a minute or so, unless that entails a sense of hurry. You can slow down if it feels better. You shouldn't think you have to do it for half an hour or an hour or more. A minute is enough. A comfortable sense of leisure is essential. Now that's reading from the book or the workbook for this lesson. So the first lesson is, nothing I see in this room means anything. Practice it for a minute or so, morning and evening. Don't exclude anything. Anything your eyes land on, when you think about it, say, this means nothing. It doesn't mean anything. The second lesson, which might be practiced tomorrow for those who want to continue through this work, the second lesson reads, I have given everything I see in this room all the meaning that it has for me. I have given everything I see in this room, on the street, from this window, in this place, all the meaning that it has for me. The lesson goes on to say the exercises with this idea are the same as those for the first one. Begin with the things that are near to you and apply that idea to whatever your glance rests on. Then increase the range outward. Turn your head so you include whatever's on either side. If possible, turn around and apply the idea to what was behind you. Remain as indiscriminate as possible in selecting subjects for its application. Do not concentrate on anything in particular, and do not attempt to include everything you see in a given area, or you will induce strain. And this is about ease and leisure. Merely glance easily and fairly quickly around you. Try to avoid selection by size or brightness or color or relative importance to you. Take the subjects simply as you see them. Try to apply the exercise with equal ease to a body or a button, a fly or a floor, an arm or an apple. The sole criteria for applying the idea to anything is merely that your eyes have landed on it. Make no attempt to include anything particular. Be sure that nothing is specifically excluded. Pam Grout talks about the second lesson. She says, for more than 100 years, physicists have known that Newton's classical view of physical reality doesn't work at its core. The subatomic realm so defies all reason and logic that most scientists, scared to endanger their academic credentials, have more or less ignored the fact that life is nothing like we pretend it is. In fact, the world is so freaky, particles popping up out of nowhere, time slowing down and speeding up, particles reacting and communicating with each other even when separated by thousands of miles, that the main thing scientists have done with this information is to develop technology for blowing each other up, sending text messages, and nuking or heating up leftover black-eyed peas. We now have inscrutable proof that the two main fundamentals of physical reality, space and time, are as shaky as a Jenga tower. And that's what A Course in Miracles is all about. It advocates the idea that consciousness creates the material world. Consciousness is creating our experience of the material world. It says we as humans decide in advance how we're going to experience life, and that we choose beforehand what we want to see. The problem is, we all look at the world with a giant chip on our shoulder. So, to change the course of my life, I must actively see and expect a different reality. Way too often, I devote my time and attention, my consciousness, if you will, to things I don't want. But it's nothing more than a bad habit. And like any bad habit, that can be changed if I deliberately apply daily effort. That's why, Pam Grout writes, I go through the course lessons every year. That's why, quote, training my mind, close quotes, is priority numero uno. In lesson 2, the lesson reads, I have given everything I see all the meaning it has for me. I simply take a quick minute, look around, and acknowledge that I have given meaning to whatever happens to cross my view. She writes, for example, I'm currently giving meaning to a big globe, a peach tree I purchased from an artist in Haiti, an encaustic painting I made when writing a story for Cooking Light about art camps in Carmel, and that's it. I look around, I take note of the things to which you've been giving meaning, and you've done the lesson. Again, leisure is important. Again, practicing the lesson as recommended by the course, a minute or two, morning and evening, is all it takes. You don't need to believe in this. You don't need to make it a day-long ritual. You are entering a practice that will, over time, assist you in altering your perception. If you want to go on with this on Sunday, you'll do Lesson 3. Lesson 3 reads, I do not understand anything I see in this room, or on this street, or from this window, or in this place. The lesson reads, apply this idea in the same way as the previous ones, without making distinctions of any kind. Whatever you see becomes a proper subject for applying the idea. Be sure that you do not question the suitability of anything for the application of this idea, which means catch your thought, but I do understand this, or I do understand that. And at least for the period of this practice, of this exercise, make the statement, I do not understand anything I see. These are not exercises in judgment. Anything is suitable if you see it. Some of the things you see may have emotionally charged meaning for you. Try to lay such feelings aside and merely use these things exactly as you would use anything else. The point of the exercises is to help you clear your mind of all past associations, to practice seeing things exactly as they appear to you now, and to realize how little you really understand about them. It is therefore essential that you keep a perfectly open mind, unhampered by judgment, for just the period of time of these exercises, a minute or two, morning and evening. And then select things to which the idea for the day is to be applied. For this purpose, one thing is like another. Everything is equally suitable and therefore equally useful. Pam Grout, in her third chapter of the book, going along with the third lesson, titles it, Sneaking Past the Bouncer of My Limited Thinking. She quotes Marianne Williamson, who says, enlightenment is the unlearning of the thought system that dominates the planet. Big picture, muscle bouncer, a Dwayne The Rock Johnson type. His arms are crossed. He's got that no way, no how look on his face. And anyone with a lick of sense can figure out it would be best to come back later, to try again when Mr. Tough isn't so diligently blocking the entry. Our current beliefs about the world are just like that bouncer. They block all the joy, peace, and other divine goodies the universe so desperately wants to bestow. A Course in Miracles is about clearing our minds, about undoing beliefs we think are absolute fact. Here's the lesson. I do not understand anything I see. Again, we simply take a moment or two to look around and say, I do not understand this pillow. I do not understand this cat. I do not understand this hand. Remember, you don't have to believe these lessons. You just have to do them. Because our old beliefs are dominated by fear, separation, and limitations. And because our brains look for proof of our beliefs, we collapse the wave, a physics term that describes plucking out a single superposition from all possible superpositions. And we select the wave or that position that supports our beliefs. Once it's collapsed, the other superpositions are no longer visible. As we surrender our old certainties, things like the world is flat, the table is solid, what we can't see with our physical eyes does not exist. When we surrender those false beliefs, a new, kinder, more loving reality gushes in. So sure, I may think I understand this pillow and this cat and this hand, but it's possible I don't. I'm willing to surrender my feeble interpretations so the infinite and incomparable, my natural state, can glide effortlessly by that now superfluous bouncer, glide by that bouncer. So again, what are we trying to do with A Course in Miracles? We're trying to open ourselves to an entirely different space of perception, a perception which yields more accurate view of life, and we are guided by our emotional state. And if our emotions are calm and loving and centered, we're probably headed in the right direction. And if our emotions are angry, sad, scared, tense, frustrated, anything we would likely rather not experience, our thoughts are probably pointed in the wrong direction. So area code 413, you're in the air. Who do we have? Area code 413. Did you intentionally put up your hand? If so, I'll let you put it up again. And I've muted you for now so we can move on without further ado. So these are the first three lessons. Again, the only rule in A Course in Miracles is you do one lesson at a time. The intention is it is a leisurely process, and the purpose is for us to deprogram the false perception that's been programmed into us and open ourselves to an entirely different level of perception. So our call-in number is 563-999-3581. And if you call that number and press 1, it'll put a question mark by your phone number, and I can announce you by your area code, and we can discuss what's happening as you listen to these first three lessons of A Course in Miracles. The idea is, how can I reprogram myself to be able to perceive more accurately? A lot of times people want to argue about what's true and what's right and what's wrong, and in this work, my only guide is my emotional state in that moment. And if my emotions are calm and loving and centered, I'm probably headed in the right direction with my thoughts and perception, and if they're anything else, I'm probably headed in the wrong direction. Dr. Michael Ryce likes to quote some of the most heavily quoted research in psychology that talks about how in 1/25th of a second, they can register about 10,000 units of electrical activity in the frontal lobes of the human brain where conscious thought is thought to be located. And during that period of time, only 9 bits of information are registered in the conscious mind, and during that same period of time, it's estimated that about 20 trillion bits of data are hitting the senses. So, we're living in a world that moment by moment presents us with 20 trillion bits of information. The brain, this physical entity that we have sitting in our skull that basically works like a computer hard drive, all it can do is record information and then play it back. It registers about 10,000 units of activity, and our conscious awareness can process 9 bits of that data. So 9 bits out of 20 trillion, and we think we know what's going on. And so, of course, in any simple, logical, Newtonian sense of physics, it would be an impossible task to get an accurate picture, to know with any certainty that I'm headed in the right direction or that I'm perceiving something accurately. So thankfully, we have something other than the conscious logical mind to guide us. We have our emotional energy system. And if we can reinterpret that system, if we can deprogram what our culture has taught us to believe, that my emotions are there to let me know that I'm right and the world is wrong, and that when my emotions are pleasant, that means everyone outside of me is doing what they should, and when my emotions are negative, it means the people outside of me are not doing what they should. And so whenever I have a negative emotion, in my culture teaches me to scan the external environment and try to figure out who or what outside of me I need to attack or run away from, or bribe or seduce or threaten to try to get them to change so that I don't have to experience that negative emotion. And all of this work that we're going to be doing through the Course in Miracles is the dismantling of the false perception and the false programming, and the opening ourselves to the possibility of an entirely different, more accurate way of perceiving our lives in the moment. And the good news is we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to go looking outside of ourselves for that source of wisdom or guru. It's contained within us. And each of us is called to wake up to a more accurate perception. And the ultimate guide for that perception is my emotional energy system. Susan, is that you?
It is. Hi, Dr. Tim. Happy New Year.
Well, Happy New Year and welcome.
Thanks. I have a question that's sort of like jumping the gun, I imagine. This will be my third or fourth time doing the miracles lessons every day. And they start out very simply and very gently, and they don't have a lot in the way of homework required. But there came a point, I forget when suddenly I felt as if I either wasn't going to do or couldn't do what was required. And it had to do with giving 5 minutes out of every hour to the lesson. And even though I'm a person who has time enough to do that, and I tried, I had a little bell on my iPhone and it would ring. And I found it annoying because I'd be in the middle of something. I began to push against it so much that I gave up trying to do what it was asking. And I just told myself I'll do what I can without feeling a tremendous amount of pressure. You even said at the beginning, don't feel any pressure. That's so nice.
Well,
it got to be.
It's
yeah.
what the Course in Miracles says.
Right.
I was reading that part right from the Course itself.
Right.
So you know what that means? You know what that means that you didn't do those lessons?
What?
You weren't ready. That's all it means. That's all it means. You know, there's a wonderful space in. Well, no, that's not scary. That's just it's being accurate. It's meeting yourself where you are. There's a wonderful place in the Way of Mastery, which I call the kinder, gentler version of the Course in Miracles, and it says, here's what we recommend. Get yourself a notebook as you go through the second book, you know, the Way of Transformation, and
right.
We're going to give you some exercises, and write down your experience doing these exercises in that workbook, and have a special pen for this, and a special notebook for yourself, and a special place to keep it. That's, you know, all of this just guiding you to give reverence to the process of reprogramming your mind. And then it says, and just note, even if you don't want to do it, just write in the workbook, I choose not to do this exercise. Perfectly okay, whether you do the exercise or not. And just notice what the experience is. Guess what your experience is when you didn't do the exercise? How many negative judgments against yourself have you been piling up because you haven't gone through the exercises?
That's true. That's true. There have been
Kind of like,
and I've
kind of like a ton, right? An endless number. So there's your learning. This whole thing is designed to help you understand your complete wholeness, your total holiness. The fact that there is nothing wrong with you. There was never anything wrong with you. And so, as you have a lesson suggested that you try and then don't do, and then you experience negative judgment about yourself, guess what? You just illuminated another part of your mind that falsely believes there's something wrong with you, that falsely believes you have something horribly wrong with you or something missing from you, that the people who actually do the work, the lessons in the workbook, one a day for an entire year, that they aren't missing and that they're better than you. Whatever that is, there's the learning. There's the healing. There's the growth. Find a way to dismantle that. The glory of this work with the Mind Shifter tool is that you can take a very specific tool, point it directly at those negative thoughts, and shine the light of awareness on where that's coming from in your life. You can do reality management worksheets on the upset you feel because you weren't able to complete all of the worksheet lessons on the scale that you wanted to, in the time frame you wanted to, and you can dismantle that set of perceptions, traumatic energies, false beliefs, whatever you want to call it, one worksheet at a time.
That all makes sense. You said something at the beginning of my question. You said, well, that shows that you weren't ready. Even that feels like a judgment, which you're going to say is another thing to look at. If I'm not ready, and I think I'll never be ready, then what does that mean?
That's just, that's just another negative judgment against yourself. Right? You're fine just the way you are. You are a magnificent extension of the creative energy in form, even if you never look at A Course in Miracles. There's nothing in this book that says, that's like, I was raised Catholic, kindergarten, grade school, high school, and college, and one of the things that they used to teach was, it's really sad, but anybody who's not baptized in this church is not going to heaven. They're going to hell, or they're going to limbo. If they went so far as to say, even infants that die can't go to heaven. They go to limbo because they weren't baptized first. Right? So just think about that level of thought. Now think about how similar it is if you create a sense of a thought that says you absolutely have to do the Course in Miracles or you can't be enlightened, or you can't be a member of the group, or you can't be saved, or use whatever word you want. It's the same silliness.
Yeah.
The Course
itself
is meant to shine a light on the fact that you're whole and perfect just as you are. The fact that you have the breath of life in you, is evidence of your value that goes beyond words each new present moment and each new heartbeat. Right? Remember the idea that's in Lesson 3 in the Way of Mastery, these first two paragraphs? Remember me reading that to you?
I do.
And it says,
that's the best.
It says,
yeah.
If I search the languages of your world, I cannot find words that can convey the love that I feel for you, Susan Bingham. I cannot find the words that can convey unto you the love that God has for all of us. I cannot find a concept, a word, an idea, a philosophy, or a dogma that can contain the mystery that is closer to you than your own breath and awaits your discovery. If I search throughout all of creation, if I search throughout the many mansions that exist within the domains of my Father's creation, and that creation is infinite, try as I might, I cannot discover anything that can truly describe you, Susan Bingham. I cannot find anything that is of greater value than you. In truth, I cannot discover anything that speaks more eloquently of the love that God is than your very existence, Susan Bingham. Therefore, in truth, I look upon you constantly, and I marvel at the radiance of my Father's love. It is through you, Susan Bingham, that I come to discover all that God is. Notice in those two paragraphs, there's nothing about once you finish a course in miracles every day for 365 days without missing and doing every exercise just the way I said, then I'm going to see the love of God in you. Please notice there's no prerequisite. Are you breathing?
No, I wasn't. Because why then? So these requirements, these suggestions, I should say,
they're not
are
requirements.
Put there. Right, I had to change my word, and I did. These suggestions then are put there knowing that we won't achieve them.
No, they're put there. They're put there for what purpose? Let's talk about purpose. Why would there be a book like this? Why is there any spiritual teaching? What's the purpose of it? If you're already whole and complete as you are, and holy. What's the purpose? Good question, don't you think?
Yeah, to help us grow, to bring us closer to God.
But to grow how? What if you're whole and complete the way you are? Why would you have to grow? So, in this book, if you go to the foreword and you read that and you read the intro, you hear this is about training your perception, not making you better or different, but helping you experience yourself more accurately as the whole blessing, miracle of the extension of love in form that you already are. And you have been programmed to believe otherwise, and this is a course of reprogramming, de-assembling the false perceptions and the false beliefs and programs, learning to question everything, learning to live by direct observation, learning to enhance your ability to perceive accurately, what Michael Ryce would call this spiritual faculty of true perception. That's the purpose of this work, not to make you a better person, not to make you worthy or valuable, not to make you whole or holy. All of those things already exist. What is missing is your ability to perceive yourself and your brothers and sisters accurately, as some of these texts would say, the way their Creator would perceive them. That's all that's missing, is perception that's accurate. So when you have difficulty going through a lesson and then you judge yourself negatively for that, there's a learning. Oh, if I'm judging something negatively, if I have a negative emotion, this work says that negative emotion is the alarm system to wake me up to the fact that I'm holding a false belief. And that false belief is busy distorting my perception of myself and the world. Oh, well, guess what? That means this is an opportunity for growth, healing, shifting, integrating, whatever word you want to use. But that's all it is. The only thing that needs to change for me to have a better experience of my life is my perception of myself and my life. My essence doesn't need to change. My value, my worthiness, my holiness, my intelligence, none of it needs to change in order for me to have a better perception of my life. because if I was perceiving accurately, I would be in that bliss state that so many of these spiritual traditions talk about.
Mm.
And you're just like the rest of us, raised in this Western culture, that you have been trained to believe there's something missing and something wrong with you. If you don't, stack up, if you don't add up to somebody else's assessment devices.
Yeah.
We get them in school. We get them at intensives. We get them everywhere, right? We're always assessing. And that's all right. But when it turns into a negative emotional response, that I'm using the excuse of the assessment and say that negative assessment is creating this negative response, that's just an error, and it's a correctable error.
Well, I like
I'm the
that
one
you
that's
say
creating the negative emotion. Go ahead.
I like that you say that the way of mastery is a gentler way. And I agree with you, it is. And if those words on those pages are really, really taken in, the results would be the same. And that's provided a lot of relief for me. And I also remember when Helen Schuckman said toward the end of her life, I know the Course in Miracles is true and I don't believe a word of it, or something like that. Don't you love it? I mean, talk about, she's the scribe and she was saying that. And I can't think of anybody.
But notice how you're giving specialness to her being the scribe.
I am. Yeah. Quiet, doctor. Yep.
Caught you. But that's
right.
That's what the Course in Miracles is about. It helps us catch ourselves. If we will just go through the process, if we will just entertain these statements, questions, observations, it will help us catch ourselves more. That's the point. If I catch myself in the middle of creating a false perception about myself, then changing it is far easier. I can't change a false perception that I haven't even recognized or that I'm thoroughly invested in believing is true.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay. I hear all that, and it's not even worth talking about, I suppose, but I'm already girding myself for the day when that lessons get to be more than I'm willing to do on some level. I read them. I write them down. I've had different things. I make crib sheets, stick them in my pockets, have little bells ringing.
But you're giving way too much importance to the doing of the work.
Mm-hmm.
And what all of this work is about is to help you give more comfortable, conscious awareness to your true beingness.
I understand. Then why did they set it up to be impossible? Is that just to show us?
It's not impossible.
To do 5 minutes out of every hour?
Yeah, it's not impossible.
Oh.
And it's not necessary. And it's not necessary.
I'm going to have to
in order for you to have any more value than you already have.
Okay. And perception of the value. Yeah. Okay.
Well, you might find a different way to have that perception of value. Right?
Mm-hmm.
All it's going for is a perception of value. It doesn't care how you get it. You've heard Dr. Michael Ryce say that the Course itself says, don't study the Course.
And trash the teacher and all that stuff, yeah.
So we have another hand up. Let's say hello to Jeannie's on with us, and she thinks this might be Joan. Is this Joan?
Yeah. This is Joan.
Hey.
Hi, Dr. Tim and Susan.
Hi.
I already shared this with Susan this morning, but I just wanted to share something I heard sometime in the past week where somebody was interviewing Deepak Chopra, and at the end of the interview said, well, what's the one lesson that you would give to people for the new year? The one most important lesson, and he said to give up being right. And I've been doing that the last few days, and it's amazing the opportunities that open in my world when I give up being right. And so, and Susan and I were talking about this morning too, that wake-up sheet. Don't know how many years it took Michael to develop it, but every piece of it is so valuable. And there's that piece in it where it says, I give up being right and give up the opportunity to use my brain cells to create another version of being right. And I just find it so interesting and amusing how my mind will find ways to make me right, and deviously, like I don't even notice it. And then all of a sudden I realize, oh, I'm just trying to be right. And giving it up is so freeing and opens up such a world of opportunity.
Well, notice, Joan, how that ties in with one of the lessons for tomorrow, or the lesson for Sunday, which is, I do not understand anything I see.
Yeah.
So, you can see as you go through the Course in Miracles lessons, you can see how Michael's work has been infused by his practice with the Course in Miracles, as well as the study of the Kabir's manuscript and that translation, and they fit seamlessly together. And that's why it's such a powerful practical tool to use in conjunction with any other practice. So you can practice doing the Course in Miracles lessons, and then if you're like Susan, you find that you have the intention to do it and you don't follow through with it, and then you have negative thoughts about yourself. And you can pick up a worksheet and start doing the worksheet on the negative thoughts and the negative emotions that are generated by that. And then you can just, and you don't have to do that, but you can, and if you do, it's doing the Course in Miracles work in a slightly different format, and it will probably take you to a place of truer perception more quickly.
Well, that's good to hear, because my number one challenge in the last course with Michael was honoring truth. So that's very good. Infinite opportunities.
Well, is there anything else we can support you with today? We have 5 minutes left. Another comment you want to make or share?
Nothing comes to mind right now, Dr. Tim, but thank you so much for your commitment to this daily program.
Well, you're entirely welcome and deserving. Thank you for the call. And Happy New Year. Although it's just another day on the calendar for some people like to start new things, like the people in Mindshifters Radio. Blessings, Joan. So,
that's true.
So, Susan, 4 minutes left. Give us your wisdom. Light us up.
I don't think I have any wisdom. I've been so happy and having such a wonderful time, and then I thought, oh my gosh, this lesson is so easy to do. Just take a minute, that's all. And then tonight I do another minute, is that all? And then I think, wait a minute, this is a ploy. They're trying to draw us in. They're going to hit us with a huge, undoable assignments later on. And I always did the lessons. Every day I would do them, but I would do them my way. I would do them as many times as I could. Maybe it would be for 5 times and not for 5 minutes each. Anything for 5 minutes is a real challenge unless my brain just...
Okay, so look at it this way, Susan. What if the unique expression of the creative energy expressing in form that is Susan Bingham is one who will reach every awareness she needs to reach by just doing the 1 and 2 minute exercises as often as she does them. And she's going to get as much or more out of those exercises as anybody who's able to do the 5 minutes every hour exercise. What if?
What if? Wow. That's wonderful.
That's probably closer to the truth than any negative thought you've ever poured mind energy into about yourself. And remember,
lovely. I'm starting to read.
well, remember that you came to this false conclusion that there's something wrong with you quite naturally in your early life interactions with a mother who was very troubled. So it's just a false belief pattern, and this is just another example of how you can dismantle it.
Mhm. Yeah. That's good.
So let's just suppose that's the case, and that whatever energies that you are called to put into this tool or the worksheet process or the targeted journaling that Michael calls the Mind Shifter tool is going to take you where you need to go, when you need to be there, moving you into realizing the truth of your wholeness and holiness and value, and there's no reason to disrupt the leisure that the Course in Miracles asks us to live within.
That's good.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We're down to 1.5 minutes before we hand this off to Jeannie, and I will mute you so we can make the transition. And thank you again for your input, and we'll talk to you on Monday if you're available, or we will be back Monday. Yeah. All right. Blessings.
Good. Yeah.
And I will remind us all that we come from love. We're made of this stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. Welcome, Jeannie Ryce.
Thank you, Dr. Tim, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. We read a little bit of the foreword and a little bit of the intro, and then did the first 3 lessons so that people can practice today, lesson 1, tomorrow, lesson 2, Sunday, lesson 3, if they so desire.
And then you'll be on 4 on Monday, huh?
Yep, that will be that'll keep us on the calendar for doing 1 a day and giving people the opportunity to practice as suggested by the Course, 1 a day.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, I hope you have a phenomenal weekend.
Thanks. Same to you. Blessings.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye-bye. So welcome, everybody, to the second hour of Mind Shifters Radio. Today is Friday.